Hello, Stephen Schaub here, leader of the FIGITAL Revolution 2.0 here on YouTube. And today we're going to be briefly talking about a test target that I made in 2009 and have updated now here in 2022, as well as a concept called PSR, which stands for Print Surface Resolution. So as most of you know, most modern inkjet printers can print out to 2,880 dots per inch. You know, a lot of times people print at 1440, sometimes people print at 720, but those numbers really have to take into account the paper or the material that you're actually printing on. Just because your printer can print 2,880 dots per inch doesn't mean that the material you're printing on is optimized for that high of resolution. In many cases, 1440 is about as good as you need. So years ago, I came up with this idea of PSR, Print Surface Resolution, where I would grade different papers that I use here in my studio based upon just how much resolution the paper could handle. And then when I'm working on an artwork, I find the paper that matches the needed resolution for the final output, for the final artwork. Obviously, as you can imagine, matte surface papers are not going to have as high of PSR or print surface resolution as, say, a glossy paper is or a Baryta paper. But I think this is something that you really should put in your back pocket as a tool, understanding just how good your ink, printer, paper combination are, and how good is that ICC that you're printing with. So what we're looking at right now is a collection of images, a collection of test targets that I've put together over the years that I use to see just how good that printer ICC, just how good that paper and ink combination can be. So there's a link to the actual file that you can download. This is for personal use only. You can download it on FIGITAL Revolution 1.0. The link is in the description. It's a pretty big file. It's about 100 megabytes once you open it up. So what you're looking for in this target, and by the way, I do mention this a little bit in the writing actually on the link where the target is found, but what you're really looking for on the grayscale image up above is you're looking for a beautiful grayscale. You're looking for nice deep blacks but that are open. You're looking for beautiful skin tonality and just a wonderful dimensional quality. That top image was shot with a Rollei f2.8 on Fuji Across 100, and it's just so sharp, so clean, and it has such beautiful tonality. You should see that in the image. The bottom image, which is the image that I made with some Canon digital camera that I owned at some point, is really all about the deep shadows. You should be able to reproduce very subtle, deep detail inside of that doorway. It should have this very beautiful brown tone in it. It should have a very beautiful controlled highlight. It should feel very three-dimensional, and you should very easily be able to read the text on the sign posted on the door. The other targets are things that are a little bit more challenging. In terms of the color gradations, you're really looking for smooth color gradations. If you see breaks within that target, that's a problem. If you see jumps within that target, like it goes from a deep tone and then sort of is deep, 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 and then jumps real high, that's a problem if you're ICC. When you're looking at the grayscale ramp, what you're really looking for is very beautiful gradation from the pure black all the way out to the whitest white, and you really shouldn't see dots. If you're seeing dots, that's also a problem. The two sort of colored rainbow pieces, those are Granger targets. They're really not 100% printable. They're really outside of the range of what printers can do. But what you should see, hopefully, is as smooth as possible of transition from the different tones. I also got a US Air Force 1951 test target in the depot. Pull out a 4x, 8x loop and see just how low you can go. The other gradations up top, those are all just about how smooth the tonality can be printed with your printer, how good is that screening algorithm, how neutral is your profile, and that little bit of text in between those circles. If you can read that, you're doing pretty darn well with regards to micro detail. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that this file is set for 1440 DPI. You need to print it at that size. Do not make it bigger, do not make it smaller. Print it at that size, at that resolution. The reason for this is most printers and printing software companies upsample the file to get it to the resolution that the printer needs. So in the experience that I have, if you send a digital file to a printer, let's say that's 240 DPI, 360, 480, as you increase those numbers, the file gets sharper and the file gets cleaner. That's because the software itself, the algorithms within the software, is not up sampling the file. The ideal numbers range anywhere from 360 to 480 to 720 to 960 to 1440. There's no reason to go beyond 1440. There's no gain. To be honest, in most cases, 720 or 960 really gives you the best. And if you're not used to having a file that's optically that high of resolution, it's kind of startling when you first see it. And what you realize is that a lot of stuff that you're printing at, 240 or 300 or 360 looks a little soft when you compare it to a file that's been prepped at 720 or 960, or in this case, 1440. So when you make this print, it should be the sharpest, cleanest, smoothest, most beautiful file you've ever printed, and keep it as a reference image. And what I would do is pull out the 5 or 6 different papers, or 10 papers, or 100 papers, however many papers you have in your studio, and I would print this test target on all the ones that I use. It'll really give you some good information as to your strengths and your weaknesses within your process. And hopefully it'll allow you to dial into making that perfect print. Thank you very much for listening. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Now go shoot some film.